You are the richest man in Rome. Not one of the richest. Not among the wealthiest. The richest. Full stop. Your properties stretch across the city like a second skin. Your name opens doors that armies can't breach. Senators court you. Generals need you. The most powerful men in the ancient world sit at your table and wait for you to speak first. You have more money than most nations, and it is killing you. Not the money itself, the wanting of more. There is a word for it in Latin, avaritia, greed. The historians will use it when they write about you. They'll say it was your only real flaw, that one vice, that singular darkness that swallowed every virtue you had, and they won't be wrong. But here's the thing they won't quite capture. You don't feel greedy. You feel hungry. There's a difference. Hunger you can justify. Hunger has a reason, a wound at the bottom of it. And yours started early. Before the money, before the power, before Rome knew your name. It started with a cave in Spain, and a family that the Republic erased overnight. You grow up with nothing to complain about and nothing to brag about either. Your father is a senator, a consul, a censor, a man who earns a triumph, one of Rome's highest military honors. By any measure, he is a success. And yet the house you share is small. Your brothers marry while your parents are still alive and nobody moves out. You all eat at the same table. You sleep under the same roof. The Crassus family is distinguished. It is not rich. Then Rome tears itself apart. Two generals, Sulla and Marius, want the same thing, and neither will yield. Sulla marches his army on Rome itself, the first man in the Republic's history to seize power by force. Marius flees, but he comes back, and when he does, the city runs red. His faction moves through Rome like a blade, cutting down Sulla's supporters one by one. The purges are systematic, merciless. Your brother Lucius is killed. Your father, seeing what is coming, most likely takes his own life rather than wait for them to come through the door. In a single season, you lose almost everything that matters. Your family, your home, your future. What's left is confiscated, sold off, erased. You run, all the way to Hispania, to friends of your father who don't yet know your father is dead. You find a cave near the sea, and you wait. You are not done yet. You come back to Rome on the right side of a civil war. Sulla is in charge again, and you fought for him, and that matters. The city is reshuffling. The losing faction's property is being seized, cataloged, and auctioned off. Estates, villas, land, businesses, all of it going for almost nothing. Because that's what happens when the state is the seller and the seller is in a hurry. You start buying. You buy fast and you buy smart. Burned out buildings that nobody else wants. Ruined properties and neighborhoods that look like battlefields. You pay next to nothing because they are worth next to nothing. Then you put your slaves to work. You've bought those too. Architects, builders, craftsmen, hundreds of them. They repair the damage. They rebuild the walls. And then you sell at a price that reflects what the property is now worth, not what you paid for it. The margin is extraordinary. But real estate moves slowly. Fire doesn't. Rome burns constantly. It is a city of timber and close walls and open flames, and barely a day passes without someone's home catching. You see the opportunity immediately. You build a private fire brigade. 500 men, trained, ready, waiting. When a fire breaks out, they race to the scene. Neighbors cheer. Help has arrived. Except it hasn't. Your men stop at the edge of the blaze and they watch. They do nothing. They stand there while the fire breathes and grows and eats through walls. And then you arrive. Shh, calm, reasonable, ready to make an offer on the property while it still has some value left. The owner watches his home burn and listens to your number. If he says yes, the brigade goes to work. The fire dies, a deal is struck. If he says no, you wait. When the last beam falls and the ash settles, you make a new offer. Much lower than the first. You almost always come out on top. It is not illegal. It is not even, by Roman standards, particularly unusual. It is just business taken to its logical extreme. Plutarch will write that your many virtues were obscured by a single vice, avarice, and that the one vice grew stronger than all the rest combined. You don't argue with that assessment. You just keep buying. By the end, you start with roughly 300 talents, around $8.5 million in today's terms. By the time your story is finished, you are worth more than 7,000 talents. Over 200 million. Some historians will say the real number is higher. Much higher. It's still not enough. Here is the part that surprises people. You are not unpleasant. Not even close. Despite everything, the fire brigades, the prescribed estates, the Vestal Virgin you kept visiting because you wanted to buy her villa, Plutarch does not describe a monster. He describes a man who remembered every name, every face. You never passed a Roman in the street, no matter how obscure, no matter how low, without stopping to greet him by name. You kept your house open to strangers. You were generous with your table and your time. People liked you. They genuinely did. And yet, there is a man across the city whose shadow you cannot escape. Pompey. Young, celebrated, already being called Pompey the Great before he is old enough to deserve it. He goes to war while you build walls. He collects victories while you collect properties. Rome cheers his name in the streets. Someone once announced his arrival in a room you were both in. Pompey the Great, they said. You fell to the floor laughing. How great is he exactly? But the laughter has an edge to it. You feel it. So when Rome hands you 8 legions and tells you to put down a slave rebellion led by a gladiator named Spartacus, you take it. This is your moment. You revive decimation, an ancient punishment where 1 soldier in every 10 is executed by his own unit. Just to make clear how seriously you are taking this. You trap Spartacus in the south, dig walls and ditches to starve him out, and you are close, genuinely close, when the Senate sends reinforcements. Pompey's reinforcements. You crush Spartacus anyway. You crucify 6,000 of his followers along the Appian Way, 1 body every 100 feet from Capua to Rome, a message written in death for anyone who passes. But 5,000 rebels escape your net and run straight into Pompey's army, who cut them down. And Pompey writes to the Senate that yes, Crassus conquered the slaves, but that he, Pompey, extirpated the war entirely. He gets the triumph. You get the credit technically. But credit and glory are not the same thing. You know that better than anyone. Then Caesar walks in. Not literally. It's never that simple with Caesar. He maneuvers. He watches. He sees 2 of the most powerful men in Rome locked in a cold rivalry and recognizes what neither of you can, that separately you are forces. Together, you are unstoppable. He comes to both of you with the same argument. You have enemies in the Senate, Cato, Cicero, men who block your ambitions at every turn. What if you stopped working around each other and started working together? You agree. Pompey agrees. And just like that, 3 men divide Rome between them. Livy will call it a conspiracy against the state by its 3 leading citizens. He isn't wrong. You don't share goals exactly, you share obstacles. The arrangement is simple. Help each other remove them. Caesar gets elected consul, gets his army, goes north to fight the Gauls, and comes back famous. You watch from Rome. You manage your properties. You work your political contacts. You do what you are good at, what you have always been good at. But Caesar is out there turning into a legend in real time, and Pompey's reputation already towers over yours. And somewhere in the back of your mind, the old hunger stirs. In 56 BC, you secure another consulship. Rome gives you Syria as your province afterward, governor, administrator, a license to enrich yourself further through official channels. It should be enough. You look east. You are 60 years old. You have not fought a real military campaign in nearly 2 decades. And you are about to invade the Parthian Empire without Senate approval, without a clear strategy, and without anything resembling humility. You tell people in private that you will march beyond Parthia, into India, into Bactria, that you will make Pompey's campaigns look like border skirmishes, and that history will have to make room for a new name. In 53 BC, you cross into Mesopotamia. At first, it works. Cities offer tribute. Greek settlements, founded centuries earlier by Alexander's men, open their gates willingly. You feel it. The momentum, the intoxication of forward movement. One city resists. You plunder it and enslave every person inside. The message is clear. You are not here to negotiate. Then winter comes, and you stop. This is your first mistake. Instead of pressing the attack, you pull back to Syria and wait for your son Publius to arrive with reinforcements. The Parthians receive word of your incursions. They prepare. They send an envoy offering you one final chance to stop. You tell him you will deliver your answer in person, in Seleucia, the Parthian capital, which you intend to take. The envoy looks at his palm. He tells you hair will grow there before you see Seleucia. He is right, and he knows it before he finishes the sentence. Your second mistake is larger. The king of Armenia offers you safe passage through his territory, a northern route with cover, with allies, with a real chance of success. You decline. Instead, you trust a man named Ariamnes, a local leader who once served Pompey, who comes highly recommended, who leads you and your entire army out into the open desert. He is working for the Parthians. By the time you reach Carrhae, your men are exhausted. The heat is merciless. The terrain offers nothing. No cover, no shade, no advantage. The Parthian general Serena meets you there with a force that is, on paper, smaller than yours. It doesn't matter. His cavalry surrounds you. His horse archers circle and fire and fall back and circle again, an endless bleeding you cannot answer. Your son Publius leads a charge to break the encirclement. He doesn't come back. What comes back? Is his head? Guys carried on a spear. Your men are ready to mutiny. The battle is lost. You attempt a truce. You ride out to meet the Parthians and talk terms. It is a trap, and you know it is a trap, and you go anyway. Because there is nothing else left to do. Marcus Licinius Crassus, richest man in Rome, member of the triumvirate that ran the ancient world, the man who crucified 6,000 slaves along the longest road in Italy, is killed in a dusty field in what is now southern Turkey. Plutarch says a man named Pomax Athres cuts off his head and one hand and sends them to the Parthian king. Cassius Dio says something else. He says the Parthians poured molten gold down your throat. A punishment for a life spent wanting more than any man could spend. Whether you were alive when they did it, nobody recorded. Here is what your death cost the world. Rome and Parthia will fight each other for the next 250 years. A conflict born entirely from one man's hunger for glory he didn't need. Launched without Senate approval, executed without judgment, ended in the sand. A quarter millennium of war. That is your legacy. The one nobody puts on the monuments. And the triumvirate dies with you. Without you in the middle, Pompey and Caesar have no reason to hold back. They are already circling each other when you fall at Carrhae. With you gone, there is nothing left to buffer the collision. Caesar crosses the Rubicon. Pompey runs. The Republic. The system your father served as senator, consul, censor. The system you fought for in a cave in Spain. The system you maneuvered inside for decades collapses. What rises from it is the empire. You helped build the world that replaced the world you believed in. The richest man in Rome, co-ruler of the ancient world, The man who remembered every name, who kept his house open to strangers, who fell to the floor laughing at Pompey the Great. You started with a small house and a distinguished father and brothers who shared a table with you. You ended face down in a desert with your head sent east as a trophy. It was never about the money, not really. It was about what the money couldn't buy. It never is.